This episode of Verbal Tap brought to you by NogiBJJGear.com.
Use the promotional code VerbalTap15 to get 15% off of your order. Do it!
Is the moment UFC fans around the world have been waiting for. It's time!
Now, it is time for Verbal Tap, the show that proves fighting way easier from outside the cage. Especially because usually there's like a clear, definitive winner of the podcast, and it's me. But with me, as always, Raph Esparza. Raph, how are you?
Wait, does that make me the loser of the podcast?
Hey, that's exactly the type of low uptake a loser would have. No, yes, that is what I was kind of trying to hint at, but it didn't roll out well.
Well, the winner of this podcast actually did his homework, watched multiple hours of grappling, produced multiple fight companions over the weekend, and is still here booking guests. And if I might pat myself on the back, booked a hell of a one from last week, also this week. We'll get to him in a second. Kevin, where should people go shop right now?
People should go shop at NogiBJJGear.com. There is no better place to get your World Wildlife Foundation rash guard. There is no better place to look like you are in a black tuxedo while you're rolling, because it's a gentle human's game. Plus kittens, Raph. NogiBJJGear.com. Verbal Tap 15. Verbal Tap 15. Did I get the code right this time? I was so close last time. I forgot the 15. It's an amateur move.
15, Verbal Tap 15 to get 50% off whatever is in your cart. Anyway, all right, let's get to the guest. So, how do we introduce him? I would like to call him champion.
God of all. He is. He's the champion. He now has the rights to Vinny Magalhaes' leg on his mantle. The man owns everything. They race for pink slips, Raph. That's what I heard.
Yeah, no. The internet might have otherwise to say about him, but we're going to reflect what should be said, is that I'm going to say this first, and then I'll stop with my niceties. But this was in no way this man's fault, what happened. And Kevin right now is, I believe, watching what transgressed. So I don't want to fully spoil everything, but it cray. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show, one, Mason Fowler. Mason, how are you doing, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm okay. So have you ever experienced an internet backlash like this ever in your life?
No, and actually what I was thinking is, like, I feel bad for some of these guys that have, like, the whole internet coming after them, like, when something goes viral, because it definitely sucks to get, like, that negativity. Luckily, most of it, I would say 95% of it is that the ref. Mm-hmm. But there definitely was some negativity between. But it's all good. I mean, it comes with the job, you know. Anyone that competes for a living or any kind of like puts themselves out there, they're opening themselves up for criticism. So win or lose, I've felt there's always going to be, like, critics. There's always going to be, like, haters or people that are against you. I've experienced it before, so definitely this is the most that I've gotten, like, at once, but it's to be expected. It's the job.
Kind of. I mean, I understand. That's a good perspective to have about it. But the internet is a weird place of very sad souls who, when they feel upset about it sometimes, don't know how to direct their hate. So...
Oh, you passed his guard a little bit for a second. Sorry, I'm at 4:30. I'm just I'm waiting for 4:20 to toke up and enjoy some more.
Kevin's making his way through the event that he missed right now, but it's okay. He's doing his homework right as the class is going on. Mason, though, for me, the reason why it's so hilarious is that when you see somebody put, like, a clown face over your face holding the championship, all I could think of is, what did you do to necessitate that? Like, at what point in trying to win did you look at somebody and go, yes, please make this as convoluted as possible for me to win?
Yeah, I mean, I reshared that one. I actually thought that one was funny. I don't mind the memes and some of the comments. Like some of the people, even if they're talking shit, like some of them are funny, man. Like those ones don't bother me. It's like the ones that are like, "Go fucking kill yourself," terrible. Like those are the ones that's like, that hurts. But the ones that are like legit funny, I mean, I can laugh at myself too.
Well, good.
You don't seem too rattled by it. And this is a good lesson for the kids out there. Take a Mason Fowler approach. Maybe it's because he just escaped a leg attack from Craig Jones and he's feeling cocky. Like, perhaps the internet trolls wouldn't be able to put him in a compromising position. That's just my hunch, Ref.
I mean, the hard part is that, Kev, I think that you're coming up on at least just the fun part of the actual match. So,
Well, so
I'm
far the
gonna
match
ask-
has had some grappling in it, so I appreciate that. That's kind of
Yes.
fun.
Now, Kevin, before I ask Mason his interpretation of the events, since you kind of have an idea something happened,
Can I tell you
but
what I
don't
saw?
know. Well, you don't know what happened, but I'm interested to hear what you think happened.
Yeah, okay. I saw Craig Jones verbal taps, but not a real verbal tap. And all I could think of was I could kiss whoever wrote this article. Could you write verbal tap 21 more times? Because if people Google Greg Jones verbal tap, I assure you something else is popping up. So it's an interesting. All I was thinking was, what the shit did Mason do that he somehow won, but has gotten vitriol but to your point, Mason, it wasn't you that got vitriol. I saw it was basically the decision. So I just kind of originally was like, oh, I wonder if he got like kneed in the bees, as in you got kneed, Mason. Like I thought it was like a disqualification of some kind, but it doesn't seem like that's what it was. So I'm quite eager to hear what unfolded, because when I saw verbal tap, but it was a wrongful verbal tap, I was like, boy, we should have named the show Wrongful Verbal Tap. If only we could go back.
Now, before I let Mason respond here, I have to tell him, and we have to be totally forthcoming here. This was a very complicated issue for us because as it was happening, I had a lot of thoughts that went through my head. The first was, oh, I don't want it to end like this. So the second thought was, oh, maybe I do, because verbal tap's good for us. Oh, shit, Mason's coming back on the show this week. I mean, I could have estimated something was going to happen, but I didn't think this was going to happen.
You're welcome.
So, I guess the good news is you did end up being champ. So with that in mind, Mason, tell us, I guess start wherever you want to go. Tell us your recollection of the events that transgressed at Submission Underground 16.
Yeah, I mean, there's one really good point that Chael made that I can repeat here, and the point that he made was that because of COVID and there not being any fans in the arena, it was like dead quiet in there. So honestly, when he was making whatever noise that he made, it sounded a lot louder, probably because it was so quiet. Like everyone in the back, all the producers, the cameramen, everyone, like all the competitors that were warming up, and no one else was warming up because it was the main event, but all the competitors that had already competed, like at the rules meeting, they asked us to be really quiet while the matches are going on. And the reason why is because they're not supposed to have too many people in the room because of the state laws. In Portland, it hasn't been cleared for them to do any kind of events yet. So,
Go Chael.
I thought that was a really good point, man. Like, I think that if there was a crowd and people were talking and cheering or whatever, the noises wouldn't have probably came off as loud as they were.
So,
So that's kind of one perspective that.
but what
that,
noise?
that I thought was kind of interesting.
What were you kind of doing, and what did you hear? Did you feel like it was a tap? I mean, and it's okay to. It's in that moment. I mean, we have replay.
No, in the moment, definitely. I mean, when you're competing, you're like like there's so many things going through your head. You're trying to figure out like how you're going to win this match, you know? Like especially in jiu-jitsu, it's like it's a puzzle that you're trying to solve. So definitely like when I'm hearing that, I'm like, oh, this is, you know, that's like my way to win. But he was definitely making like, I wouldn't call it a scream. He called it a grunt. I guess that would be a better way to describe it. It was like and after the match he said it was more due to the body triangle than me turning his face. So that's, I mean, you got to trust his word on that. He's the one that was, you know, feeling it. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's kind of a weird thing that transpired because like in any IBJJF tournament or, you know, any like smaller local tournaments, it's pretty well known that like when you're in a submission, you're not supposed to make any kind of noise. You know, any kind of noise can be counted as a verbal tap. But with that being said, there are other tournaments like ADCC doesn't count any kind of noise as a verbal tap besides you screaming the word tap. So
do they say that?
It just
Our ADCC rules, they're like, you better scream this one word.
Yeah, you can scream in pain and have your arm being broken, and they're supposed to let it go.
That explains.
I believe.
Oh my God, that
I believe
explains some
that's what Mo
Cyborg
said.
matches. Sorry, I keep overlapping you, but Cyborg was screaming. Go on.
Yeah, no. So I don't know, man. It's kind
Oh,
of a
you
gray
won!
area
Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna interrupt you. Hey. Okay,
I
so
know, but, like,
ooh, interesting.
At the same time, I definitely would have liked to have a definitive win. Obviously, like the competitor in me, I've been waiting to get the Craig match for a while. Like the match at ADCC, like I talked to you guys about that. It was rough having to sit back and reflect on that match, thinking that like I kind of like almost had it in the bag, lost the match. So it's been a long time coming, and then now it's like I won, but it's with all the controversy. So definitely wanted to get like a clean, decisive win. But at the end of the day, man, look, it's better than me being in a wheelchair right now and getting my yell torn in half.
Well, I was gonna ask. I
So,
kind of
like-
want to throw this at Raph. I'm curious because Raph and I both always have an interesting sort of media perspective here. Raph, do you think this is best case scenario, worst case scenario, middle? Where do you think? Because I think I have a take on this.
So I was watching it on air, and we cut a little clip of me doing it, and my immediate first reaction was, as a pro wrestling fan, there's always money in the rematch. So all I could think of as I was watching it live was, oh, this works out great for everyone. This is going to mean that we need to do another match. And I don't know what your feelings are. I'll get this in a second from you, Mason. But I think this is one of the rare times that we could maybe parlay Submission Underground into stopping this nonsensical 5 minutes for you guys. And I'm talking like in the same way that the UFC gives a 5-round fight for the main event and for championship fights, that we can maybe get some more time on the clock. Because more often than not, for the main events or for the bigger guys, you see that they don't really do a ton in those 5 minutes, which means we go to overtime, which means nobody feels great about it. And then if nobody feels great about overtime, they sure as fuck don't feel great when they see a ref make a call that I guess on paper was written down, and they showed those rules that said, hey, anything happens is a verbal tap that you make as a noise. I would just say that, Mason, I want to get your thoughts. Would you be interested in another time limit? Like, in your brain, what is the best case scenario for a rematch? Which, by the way, you did say you want to run it back to be fair to Craig, and I thought that was great of you.
Yeah, so I mean, ideally for me, the match would have been ADCC rules originally, you know, because that was the rule set that our first match took place. And then also, I think if you're looking at odds, even rule set with the 5-minute regulation and the EBI overtimes, I was like a 7-1 underdog. And I think if we had an ADCC match, I don't think I would be a 7-1 underdog. I think the line would be a lot closer. And the reason why is just because looking at both of our skill sets, I think that I have a little bit more of an advantage on scoring. And then he definitely has more experience and probably a bigger advantage on any kind of sub-only rule set, you know? So honestly, if I had my way, it would be probably another ADCC rule set. If I really wanted to turn the favors more towards myself, it would be more of like IBJJF, but obviously I don't think that would ever happen. But yeah, for me, the best case scenario would be ADCC, or like, I think I showed that I have the ability to play smart and maybe pull off a win. Even if the verbal tap didn't happen the way that it did, I think that I still was in a good position to win the match. So yeah, I'm okay with the rules how they are. If Submission Underground came to me and said, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do," I mean, I wouldn't say no. They're gonna pay. I mean, they're paying me really well. They already told me what the next match is gonna be, so it's pretty much up to them at this point.
Well, it's good when you're king that you get that opportunity, because I know as it was, winning 10K was great. So if you're saying the pay is nice, then okay. Now, I would say to you,
it's really good.
I would say to you this, and I'm happy for you on that. The thing that really pissed me off about the situation is that, and you alluded to it in what you were just saying right there, is that I was really angry that you didn't get the credit for how you were playing the overtime, which is, yeah, okay, if people wanted to say he wasn't tapping, that didn't look comfortable. And I felt like the way that you were starting to work off of the back was really, really solid. And I thought that your switching of the arms in between, you showed Chael that as well. I thought that was an unfortunate thing that you didn't get as a true compliment to your technique. But he's not just going to make a noise if you're not doing something right.
Yeah, and then
that is a good rule for love making also. I just want to state that for the record. If your partner, never mind, different, my bad.
What I was going to say is, I don't know. I haven't seen every one of Craig's Submission Underground matches, but the ones that I did watch, I don't remember any of his opponents ever escaping his first back take. He usually finishes everyone in the first round of the overtime. So that's one more thing too that I think a lot of people missed, was that I was able to escape. And then even before the verbal tap happened, I had racked up a decent amount of control time on him too. So
I want to throw a few
if you go
things
back,
at you.
Who knows what would have happened, you know?
Because I agree with the premise, and Rav's pointing out some really interesting things about the match to me. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with one. I'm impressed by your ability to escape his leg attacks and his attacks in general, because he throws some really wicked triangles. You got out of that. You were interested in fighting, which, back to your point, most of his Submission Underground matches, I think it ends in that first overtime match because that's the strategy with his opponents. Can I avoid getting into a grappling match with him long enough to make it to overtime? Because I think it just feels better on the ego. I know it feels better on the ego. The second thing I'm going to say to you is, and obviously enough people listen to this podcast that somebody might be like, hey, way to take some advice. And if that's the case, great. I'm now in your corner. I picked your Pikachu, and, F Craig Jones. That's yesterday's news. I'm moving on to what's next. This is a small example of what I think you should do. I think you should go the other way. Love your humility so far. You're like, he gets a rematch, but I think you should be like, after a few days, I think he did tap. F him. They're going to have to make it worth my while to take on some sloppy thirds. So don't be afraid to get a little braggadocious, because I think this is the best case scenario for a grappling match right now. Because number one, it's a good match. It just is. But number two, the underdog wins in a weird way. Excellent. Excellent news. That's a way more interesting storyline than you just really kind of finished the choke. I mean, that's the best one for you, but maybe we'll see what the payday looks like for the rematch. Because that's where I just wouldn't be afraid if you're like, what would a used car salesman do to get maybe one more zero attached? Start giving your man Krager a little bit of the business.
Yeah, I heard. I think I heard you say something, mention that before, maybe on the last podcast.
So
and I don't know.
that-
I just, to me, it wouldn't be genuine. Like
Perfect.
I'm not Chael. I couldn't play that bad guy heel.
Damn it.
If I did it, it would come off. I'd be like the Colby Covington of grappling. You know what I mean? Where everyone just like knows it's fake.
Well, please don't put on a
So,
MAGA
yeah, I
hat
like
while we're
talking
doing
about
it.
that, but yeah, it's just not me.
well,
I tried,
believe
Raph.
it was
I tried.
Josh Starlord the Duke that said it as we did the fight companion, because at the end of the clip, Josh seemed to suggest, going off of my pro wrestling riff, he was like, if I were him, I'd take a page out of Chael's book and just wear the belt and say like, I made you scream like a little bitch, and run with that. And
His
I
is
actually-
meaner than
there's something to
mine.
that.
I like his though. I do like the that is a good Chael anger line.
There's just not much more that will ever compliment Chael than to see a derivative of his work. And Mason, if you ever feel like you would be inauthentic as a shit talker, you have two people here who would write your material for you, and it would be a million times better than anybody in the grappling world.
You would make me laugh pretty hard if you pulled a crumpled piece of paper out of your shorts and were like, how about that flight in? Craig Jones sucks, eh? But we'll work on it. No, this was a good fight for you, and I think this is a great ending because you're going to get another one. But I'm going to make this point to both of you, and this is unassailable. Of course, because we have no other real sports, and this is one of the most interesting grappling moments we've had of 2020. In like a year, when we're just looking back at your record, Mason, no one's going to remember how it ended. It's just going to say Craig Jones verbal tap.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's like the little kind of, I guess, icing on top of the cake is that I will have the win on my record. But like deep down, I'll know, like deep down, I won't be satisfied with it.
Okay, so I'm actually interested here. You do feel a little, it sounds like you feel a little unsatisfied, and you're a competitor. I kind of get it, but to me, I'm kind of hearing the scream. The ref makes the decision. It's not really your bad. Fights ends. It's your hands raised. Sorry, that's the game. But it sounds like you're kind of still maybe not feeling that way.
You know what it is? It's just like I remember how I felt after ADCC, and I know that that's how Craig feels right now. And like Craig's a good dude, So
yeah,
I kind of feel bad in that aspect. It's worse. It sucks when you lose, and it's justified. But when you could chalk it up to like I've lost before, and I was just like, man, he was just better than me. I need to like get back to work. Like you can swallow that. But it's you lay up thinking at night, you can't sleep thinking about it on the times where you feel that you got robbed. So I know it probably sucks for him. That's why it's like we got to do the third one and just make it right,
So did you guys exchange words? And if so, what did you guys say to each other?
Nothing really in depth. Just he said, hey, mate, can you tell Kyle to give you the damn black belt? God damn. That was about it.
I'm going to guess you will not be saying that to Kyle. I don't know, maybe. You'll pass along the message, but
I say it to him every day. Like, hey, man, are we doing promotions anytime soon or what?
oh, see, I cannot figure you out. Won't talk a little smack on beating Krager's ass with the verbal tap, but gives Kyotera a little noise. I cannot figure this one out.
I can't. No, you can't. You can't say nothing to Kyle, man. I already told you guys last time. He's the king of roasting people. So, yeah, I'm just joking, but.
Oh, okay. All of a sudden, I was going to be like, I fear for my life when I watch that man grapple. It just pop right out of your pocket
No, yeah,
and choke you.
Kyle's the one guy that you don't want to really talk trash to. It won't end well.
Well, if that's the case, why can't you just bribe him with some candy? I'm pretty sure if you unload a truckload of really sugary things, at some point he'd have to give in.
Yeah, that's my best shot at probably getting promoted is
I
through
think so.
Candy.
Well, it was nice though. At one point, they credentialed you as a 10th planet, or not a 10th planet, but as a black belt.
EBI overtime fight. Oh no, I saw people saying like, "Oh, Fowler's an EBI OT fighter. What did you think he was going to do?" And it's like, this is my first time ever competing in EBI overtime. I've never done EBI overtime before.
I didn't see that critique, but that's very funny.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
this
they
last-
just assume because of ADCC. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
what did you also see? Because I was going to ask, what's one of the most ridiculous things that you saw online? Like, were there any other things that caught your attention?
No, it's similar. Like after ADCC, everyone was talking about my wrestling background. You know what I mean? And like I never wrestled too, so it's kind of the same thing. Now I'm like the EBI overtime fighter. So we'll see what people think I am next.
What a problem to have. Oh no, they think of a wrestler now. Fools, I didn't wrestle. Ha, take that. Because to me, I think one of the advantages is you do have good wrestling for jiu-jitsu. So to me, I look at what you do and I say like, yeah, you could have fooled me, dude. But all things considered, when you look at some of these guys who immediately just want to go to a sit and you're the guy who wants to stand up with them, it does make you stand out a little bit. So, credit where credit's due. So I just think two.
I was going to say too, that's one of the things about the sub only and the EBI format too that kind of puts me at a little bit of a disadvantage is that pretty much my whole wrestling game is thrown out the window, and I've put a lot of time into that. Like I said, I wanted the rematch with Craig, and so I came to this rule set because this is the place that he was competing at, and he was like the uncrowned champ of Submission Underground before they even introduced the belt. So I
just listen to the way they talk to him.
Came up with the strategies. I know exactly. Yeah, he was like the king of Submission Underground. So that's how the match even ended up in that rule set in the first place. It's because I came to him.
Well, don't forget this. You can say that you won. You can say that there's some bragging rights with the verbal tap, but no matter what happened, there's an even bigger prize, which is that for one night, Chael Sonnen stopped looking with those loving, want to make out eyes with Craig Jones because he's like, well, I mean, you lost now, so. And then started looking at you as he was asking you, like, so show me this whole thing. How do you do this? And I was like, oh, a new star is born. Look at this. Chael's looking at you and asking the details on how you're switching your hips and how you move. To keep and retain and use like an extra amount of energy that you get for the rear naked choke. So we all saw it happen. The only thing I wanted to clarify here. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say like, Chael's really cool, and even before this, we kind of talked before on me being a really big MMA fan since I was a kid, and I can remember Chael fighting Nate Marquardt and fighting Anderson Silva back in the day. So I've always been a huge fan of his. So it's cool that I have a little he kind of he knows my name now. We got a little friendship going on. It's cool.
Def does. And I guess the only thing I wanted to clarify, did you see Craig's explanation of what happened? Because he did a video where he explained his interpretation.
Yeah. The interview with Chael right afterwards.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's how he felt. So, like I said, all we can do is do it again. It sucks. I feel bad that he feels robbed. So.
Okay. Because the only thing that was just...
I owe him. He gave me the shot, so we'll do it again.
Yeah, the only thing that just seemed weird in terms of it, because I was looking at this, and I don't know, I didn't have the volume on because we were doing our thing. But the only thing I thought stood out to me was when he said that you were pointing to the ref, that it was a verbal tap one time, and then he made another noise, and then that's when they decided to call it. Is that accurate? Because I don't know those details.
Yeah, no, I definitely got a little excited. The first noise that he made, I think, was louder than the second one. And from my understanding, when you make a noise in a submission, it's a verbal tap, but and And also, I don't know if I talked about this already, but Eddie commented on it too, Eddie Bravo, and his opinion was that in the EBI overtimes, especially on the back, he won't count noises and screams as a submission. He'll let the fight go on. And that's the guy that made the EBI rules. So I don't know, just because Submission Underground adopted those rules, I don't know if they follow them exactly to the T, but EBI's verbal tap rule from the back is probably different than any other tournaments or, but yeah, so when I heard that, I got excited in my mind, and we kind of talked about when you're in a match, you're kind of, thinking about how you're going to win. And I actually looked at the ref, verbal tap, and I said verbal tap, like asking him, verbal tap, and he said, no, keep going. And I was like, all right, kept going. And then the second time that he made the noise, the ref stopped it. And then the ref said verbal tap.
Well, thank you, because I interpreted it as you were just saying a podcast that you really enjoyed. And we're clearly not at all hating
I had the
attention
same
we've
reaction.
gotten.
I was like, wow, what a time for Mason to plug us. In a match where it's like, who's our favorite grappler, him or Craig Jones? So I don't know, but Mason's screaming verbal tap, so I guess it's him.
But here's a very nice little, I guess, Alanis Morissette ruined the word ironic, so irony has a very strange definition, but it's a nice coincidence, is that, Kevin, what is the bet that Craig Jones lost that he has to fulfill on this show?
This is definitely, I would have to say, a coinsonic. He still owes us a PSA that it is in fact called a verbal tap and not a verbal submission, and people should know that.
So it's one of the bet losses from Over Under Kevin that if you're him, you wish you had done before any of this happened.
Yeah, I think Mason might have cost me seeing results on that bet. I might be able to kiss that one by, and I'm blaming Fowler, just so you know, and the referee, but mostly Fowler, because I don't know. I don't want to be in your body triangle, sir. Let me just say that.
I'll take the blame on that one. Sorry.
If you're making Craig scream, I can assure you I'm crying.
Here's the good
or
news,
dead, so that's fine.
That Craig did message me because he saw a couple of memes we put up, and all he sent to me was, he was just like, bro, and I was like, it's your dumb fault. Because earlier, and Mason, you don't know this, earlier when he put up some sort of message about a 14-year-old Russian kid that was trying to call him out to a match or something. And I don't know exactly the details, but it was on his Instagram story. Somebody was yelling at him and accosting him. And it was the day of Submission Underground. And I said, oh my God, a 14-year-old wants to have a match with you, Craig. And I was like, you know what? Let's just call it off with Mason today. Cancel that match. Get that 14-year-old kid who wants to talk shit to you. And that's the main event. And when you ended up beating him, and he sends me a note that just goes, bro. And I was like, bro, I told you to get that 14-year-old kid as the main event and don't fight Mason. So don't look at me. I tried to make something happen for you. It's your fault you lost now.
I'm sure he feels better.
I'm sure. I'm very good at bad situations of making athletes feel better. But I think this is a wonderful opportunity to discuss, Kevin, who and what and where and when and why. So, Mason, did you watch any of the fights this weekend?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't remember all my picks, so I don't know if I won or not.
Nobody ever does. Let's go top down. What did you think about Street Jesus' performance?
I think that he did surprisingly well for being on 6 days notice. You can definitely tell he was exploding and then he was resting. He would have maybe in each round like a solid minute of exploding, and then he would kind of take the rest of the round off. And I think his strategy was that he was trying to rest until his next explosion, and then hoping that he caught him on one of those explosions to finish the match or to finish the fight.
I saw him.
He did well.
I saw him load that up so many times, and every time he lunged forward, credit to Usman, he read it really quickly, and he was putting so much stock into that variation of like his Superman punch that I just kept being like, bro, you're not going to connect on this. And it seemed
for
like
sure. He was trying too hard.
Mhm. I just
He
felt
was trying
bad
too hard. He
because
was putting 100%.
he
in
was
every
then
shot.
like pressed up against the cage for the bulk of the fight. Did you feel a little let down, or how did you feel altogether on that?
I was the most bummed that they couldn't come to an agreement 3 months ago when they were negotiating. I was mad that it took Burns testing positive for COVID for them to make the fight, because I think if they would have gave Masvidal more preparation, it would have been a completely different fight. Definitely more entertaining.
Well, pros and cons here, because it's rumored, unless you're somebody in our comment section on Verbal Tap who's like, I can't believe you guys believe these numbers. And it's like, bro, no one believes you. No one cares what you think. But it has been reported that this sold at 1.3 million. And if that's the case, this makes this one of the most popular pay-per-views in the ESPN Plus era, which now solidifies Jorge Masvidal as a legitimate draw. And I do believe part of that is, no offense to you, Gilbert Burns, or you, Gary Tonin, who tried to make the case that Gilbert Burns should get some acknowledgement, but Gilbert Burns versus Usman was not going to sell.
I think the fact that it was such a stacked card, I think it would have done good, but definitely throwing Masvidal in at the last minute, it sold way more. But I think it would have done okay.
No,
because there were 3 title fights and it was stacked.
You would think that, except even with its prime pristine slot, it was not trending. And you know how it's not trending? When Dana White keeps his mouth shut during fight week and doesn't tell you what it's trending like. But 3 days before the fight, he said it was trending like a Conor McGregor fight, which allows him to take the gas off of the whole car that is the Conor McGregor bus, and now understands he's got somebody new here. So we had somebody ask here, and Kevin, I'll ask you this. Does a loss hurt Masvidal as a pay-per-view draw?
No, not in this particular scenario, because he took it on 6 days' notice. If this had been the scheduled fight and Masvidal, it was a decision loss, and it was a decision card, and the card matters in the context of these conversations. One, no one gave an F about Fight Island coverage-wise. Coverage of Fight Island, we might have done the best job covering it, which is not great, including the UFC. Where were the dolphins, dickheads? Not one shot of dolphins? Fuck off. If Johnny Depp doesn't sink a ship in between you and the cage, someone's not doing their job. Hollywood shut down. Call someone, Dana. Kamaru Usman is dominant. He takes this match within 6 days' notice. To me, this solidifies that Jorge Masvidal's next fight will be against Nate Diaz, and it will officially be for like the hemp title. I don't know, highest motherfucker on the planet is hump op a thing. It can just be straight up. Joe Rogan's the sponsor this time. It's not like The Rock, but it was more affordable.
Okay.
To me, this is big, isn't it? I mean, Jorge loses, but it was a decision. It's not like he got KO'd or embarrassed.
Well, a couple of people were trying to make the point that Jorge has a bunch of losses on his record. Now, Mason, I'm going to ask you this because we can move on to these other fights, but why are you so compelled to like him?
I think we talked about this before, but I've been following him for a while. He fought a guy from my hometown that I actually was training with for a while, named Billy Evangelista, back in the Strikeforce days. Mm-hmm. So he's been on my radar for a while. But then, yeah, obviously, I mean, from the backyard fights to he was kind of like a 50-50 fighter, fighting in Strikeforce, Bodog. He was fighting in China, and then came to the UFC, kind of was still 50-50, and then all of a sudden comes back and then just starts murking guys. So yeah, I don't know what it is, man. I've been a fan of his for a while. His fighting style too. Even in his fights where he plays more safe and more defensively, he has such slick striking. And defensively, I think he's one of the best, if not the best, strikers on the roster.
Yeah, and I would tell you this to the people who were doubting his pull. Conor McGregor would lose these fights, but still be a draw. So I think what we've crossed over here is, yeah, records do matter, and you can build to being a star. But I think independent of all that, Jorge Masvidal is just an interesting person that people want to see, who has some knockout power. But again, matched up against Kamaru Usman, it was a rough time. And it led me to believe, unfortunately, that even with a full camp, I still feel that Trevor would have had a game plan for Jorge Masvidal. Because I think one thing that was underrated was Usman's chin, and I think he can absorb a good shot. So footstops be damned. It was still a very impressive performance by Usman, and I think it's hard to really argue with the fact that he's a legitimate champ. Like, it may not be the most exciting thing in the world to watch, but he's very, very good. So that's what I got on that fight. How did you have the Alexander Volkanovski score against Max Holloway?
I thought it was 3-2 for Holloway, but I knew that one of the rounds was really close, but I thought Max was going to get it. I was super bummed out about that one.
I was too, and I have to go back and rewatch that one. I was trying to rewatch it before we did this show, but I think it's going to be one that I maybe sit down with somebody who I think has stronger boxing than I do, which is basically anybody. But I would love to hear the opinion of somebody who watched that, because there were some people who were very, very vocal about Volkanovski winning 3 rounds. But to me, I just thought it was an impressive display by Max Holloway that really, I thought he did it. I thought he made the rounds count that he needed to make rounds count for.
Yeah, I think it was that 5th round. Volkanovski hit a couple takedowns in the 5th, and it's obvious now that it was 2 rounds apiece going into the 5th, except one judge had Holloway up 3-1. So I think Volkanovski pulled it off in that last round, and maybe Max got comfortable. Maybe he thought he had 3 rounds in the bag and wasn't too worried about losing the 5th. I don't know, but yeah, either way, I think Max should get a rematch. It does suck because now he's 0-2 against Volkanovski, but it would be nice for them to run it back again. I don't know who the next contender would be in that division.
There's been some talk of a number of people, but Dana did seem to express maybe some idea of not having a problem running it back. Volkanovski's like, I've closed this chapter, and this is the moment that I felt like was unfortunate of him, because I was like, yeah, buddy, you don't get to decide that one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Especially on a
Holloway's
high
one
pay-per-view, this one. I think, with a good return on this, that means a lot of people saw it. I think they'd watch that one again. Now, Kev, I don't know if you got to see this, but Peter Yan and Jose Aldo featured one of the most unfortunate, my God, stop this match moments.
This is the one they caught Rogan on tape. On tape. What am I, 80? This is the one Rogan's hot on the mic being like, stop this fight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because Rogan did a fight companion, and it was rough, Kev. I mean,
Jose's been. I mean, this is tough, but this isn't unexpected. Jose has been bad since before he lost to Conor McGregor.
Let's be very clear. Jose was actually putting up a much better fight in this one, and Peter, to his credit, is just a much better fighter. And Jose Aldo had some moments, and he went to the 5th round with them, so credit to him on that. But there was not any really part of me that thought, oh yeah, he's gonna win this. I just thought there were some moments where I said, man, that's a little good Jose Aldo, and here's some leg kicks that we used to see from him that didn't really exist here. Did you have anything different on the opinion on that, Mason?
No, I mean, in the first couple rounds, I thought Aldo looked sharp.
Mm-hmm.
I've been waiting for him to bring back the leg kicks. You didn't see the leg kicks in either of his Holloway fights, and he tried to box Holloway, and Holloway pieced him up. So, yeah, I thought vintage Aldo was back, but I think his age and just the wear and tear from all of his wars got to him. And Peter Yan's younger, the fresher fighter, and, yeah, he took over at the end there. I think Aldo won. He won 1 or 2 of the first rounds,
yeah,
I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about this because Thug Rose and Jessica had a pretty fun fight.
Yeah, yep. Scary at the end there for Rose. I didn't think that Andrade really was going to have a chance when Rose was keeping her at distance, but Andrade ended up in the end there. She turned into the tank that she fights like sometimes, and she was almost able to pull it off at the end. She rocked Rose a couple times. So yeah, it was a good fight.
Yeah, I definitely like that. If that went to 5 rounds, though, I didn't love Rose's chances. But it begs the question, what do you see happening with that division now with that performance?
Yeah, I think you do Rose and Wei Li Yang next. I think that one's next. I think Joanna probably might need one more win to get another title shot. So I think Rose is going to get the shot now, and that's a great fight too.
Absolutely. All right. Obviously, Amanda Ribas had some complications for your boo, Paige Van Zant. How much did it hurt watching that, Mason?
You know what? We missed that fight because we were at the hotel in Portland. We couldn't order it at the hotel because it's only on ESPN Plus. We called a bar to see if they were playing it. They said yes, and then we showed up there, and then they weren't playing it.
No.
So we missed the first fight. Yeah, we missed it. But yeah, I rewatched it. Man, I just think Ribas was too much for her, man. She came in and she was trying to make it kind of like a dirty dog fight, and she got caught. Right? Ribas is slick, man. She has good stand up, and she showed that her jiu-jitsu game is no joke.
I mean, oof, it was hard to watch. But Kevin, here's the even more harder thing to watch. Afterwards, they asked Dana White, well, it was her last fight, and she's been testing the water, she wants to say, about going there. She says that she's worth more, and she made all this money. So she's been talking about how she made more on Dancing with the Stars than she has her whole fighting career. Do you know what Dana said? Just take a guess.
Go back to Dancing with the Stars.
He basically said afterwards, she should go ahead and test fucking free agency, which is essentially his fuck off, get out of here. So it's an interesting thing because I understand wins are important in MMA, but it's a nice, convenient way for Dana to sideswipe the pay conversation because a fighter loses. Which is always kind of a convenient excuse where it's like, well, they lost, so fuck them, which is like, well, that doesn't really get away from the point. Other people aren't making money, Dana, so touche on whatever you have to say. If you didn't get to see that, let me just fill you in on a couple little quick highlights, and then we'll get to business. But Yuri Prochazka's fucking knockout was concerning, and here's why. Yuri basically was leaving his hands down for the bulk of the fight and inviting Volkan to try and hit him. And he connected a couple times with some stiff jabs and a couple little overhands that seemed to stun Yuri, which made it a very bad-looking proposition. But a little into the second round, comes out with a night-night punch for Volkan Ozdemir, and it was concerning. So it was a very interesting prospect. He was a very big underdog, but he came in and ended up winning that thing. Also, Marwan Akmani got a very cool anaconda choke in the middle of his fight, so that was stoked to see. But the rest of it was a little decision-friendly, and also kudos to Davey Grant, who ended up getting a KO punch to begin the evening. Kevin, do we have some results to talk about?
Yes, we do, Raph.
Okay.
And it was close.
Mm-hmm.
It was very close. How do you think you did, Fowler hardly knower team?
I would say that I won by 2 fights. Like that.
I love the bold confidence of like, I have nothing to back this on, but I feel I won.
What am I going to say? I probably lost. You're way better than me at everything.
Well, not at putting verbal tap into practice. Apparently, you've excelled at that. This is tough, Raph. This one's tough. It is an 8-7 finale. And all I can think is if I had just taken Thug Rose, it would be 8-8, and I could ride this into overtime. But I can't. Ozdemir loses.
Let's go.
Bogotov's a piece of S. And despite getting 4 of the 5 main events correct and making almost 74% of my original wager on DraftKings, I lost somehow in a second controversial win to Mason Fowler, who's arguably 2-0, 0-2 on the weekend. Who can tell? Who can tell? I feel I'm just another asterisk in his trail.
I feel like my motto's just going to be like, I'll take it.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Even from like a kinda that's talking smack a little bit. It's like, oh, were people saying maybe Craig didn't tap? I'll take it. It's like I heard him scream. I'll take it.
When he does this all the way through the next ADCC and he stands up with a gold medal and a podium and he's like, whatever, guys, it just happened.
Verbal tap. It just throws it up.
And the best part is it's going to be still then Caltera is going to be like, I don't know. I don't see a black belt on him.
Yeah, no, for sure.
In fact, I can also like semi-see Kyle being like, truthfully, I thought it was a purple belt performance. I might
he might promote me.
Well,
a lot of people do that at IBJJF. Oh man, promote people. God, I would love to see a few demotions. That would really make my heart just be like, all right, the world's in balance. It's like you lose to an Atos brown belt, and Kaio's just like, nope. That won't cut it. we gotta get Mason a new belt. Sorry, that will not happen. Does anyone remember what the bet was? I've completely forgotten. I feel like I owe him a T-shirt, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that was it.
Does anybody remember?
Mason does have a good memory. It is a shirt, so he gets a verbal tap shirt. Which, by the way,
he's earned it, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't I send him 20 after the press? But what size are you, sir?
Large.
I'll see if we have an large.
Yeah, I mean, listen, dude, you really did earn that. And I feel like, wow, you know what the best part about it is? I want you to take a picture of it, but I also...
that might ruffle a couple feathers,
I
man.
know! And the best part is, so I've literally tried to put on 2 or 3 posts, like, when they go, what do you think of the result? And I'm like, it's good business for us. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I would just tell you this. I mean, it's pretty funny. And if it was anybody other than Craig, I might feel a little bit of sympathy. But, like, Craig's family, too, with us here on the show. So he understands. And he has a verbal tap T-shirt himself. So he can shut the fuck up. He's fine. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and start around third, making our way to home plate. Mason, the next Submission Underground is, I believe, August 30th. Do we expect the rematch at that one, or do we have something coming up before then?
No, yeah, I have gotten a couple offers, but I definitely want to focus on that. I think that's more important for now. And yeah, I'm glad that there's more time, because after the last tournament, there was like less than 3 weeks to prepare for Craig. You know what I mean? So now I'm going to have a lot more time to prepare. Like I said, I'm not as experienced in the EBI overtimes. I'm not as experienced in the sub-only format. So I think that those extra couple weeks is going to help a lot with the preparation.
Contrary to internet rumors, he's going to have to look back into it. It's going to be... Well, Mason, to me, you're the hottest, and I know this is going to be tough for you, especially from a humility perspective, but you're the hottest grappler potentially on the planet right now. So you have to make some demands to make people start putting, like, carrots in your dressing room. Just think about it.
Yeah, no, Submission Underground takes care of us, man. They put us up in a nice room.
That's
Cover the-
actually I want to
cover the
give it.
travel costs.
I want to give a shout out to them, Raph. We don't, frequently we hear a lot of, and I made a mental note of this earlier, but I think it's important because we have frequently been very critical of grappling communities and specifically organizers that we feel aren't providing that extra cushion to the grapplers that they deserve. And you're describing a very different situation, as we've heard a lot of people describe Submission Underground, that they pay the fighters, they take care of people. So that's great to hear, and it's a compliment to them. That's why we watch.
Yeah, I haven't heard any negativity from the competitors. Everyone's usually really happy afterwards, and everyone's in a good mood, and it's a cool show, man. Chael's real cool with everyone, and he treats all the competitors really well. I think it's because he was a high-level competitor himself. I think that's where that comes from.
He's gonna be really pissed when he hears you say "was" in that sentence. But I am with you, Raph. How do we get?
I think he's retired, no?
Is he? I don't know.
I think so.
He fought
Well,
Galvo.
Not Damon, sorry, Chael.
He is a guy who's retired a couple times.
I was like, he was retired
So-
before he went to Bellator. He'll fight.
Somebody and
Somebody get
the
his,
nice part about it is-
the back of his hairs up. He'll be out there in a heartbeat.
the nice part about it is he's also a guy who basically got to do the dad stepping out to go have a competition at ADCC a couple years ago when he, quote, beat Leo, and then got to have his first infatuation with Craig Jones in the Absolute. So, like, that was where the love affair began with Craig, with him. So, they had a good run, and now you're the twinkle in his eye. So congrats to you, man.
Thanks, bro.
God. Mason, I want to be
So
very
much.
I want to be very clear about this. It was very cool to watch you have a moment, and I hate that it was stymied just a little bit, but I think that you've taken it with good perspective. I was really glad that you put that post out for Craig, and you said that you'll give a rematch. I think it shows your character, and I think that it's representative of, like you said, if you were trying to be somebody else, it might come off as phony, but it's who we know, and it's who we've known for a while. So I think that independent of all the controversy, whatever it is, you've been putting out a lot of really good work, and I think that we all get behind those who put in the work to get the recognition they deserve. So for all of that and more, we are very pleased for you, sir.
Thanks, man, and thanks for reaching out and letting me kind of get some of my thoughts out there as well. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, listen, it was just funny where I was like, with other guests, we might also ask the hard questions, but I knew at the very least, I was like, well, Mason could kind of roll with some of our punches because some of them are just going to be obscene because it's just a ridiculous situation.
Kevin trying to get him
I
to
know
fight.
the situation is just crazy, so yeah, I expected it.
Yeah, well, you took it on the chin pretty nicely. Unlike Craig, boom, got him one more time. Anyway, Mason, where can the people find you? Where can they see your sponsors, all that good stuff? Brand yourself, sir.
So my Instagram is Mason Fowler MMA, and I had so many sponsors. I don't want to name every single one. A lot of people supported me for the two Submission Underground competitions, and my main one is Moya Brand. And that's it, man. Shout out to Kyle and CTA, and time to get back to work and start training for the dream match.
Beautiful. Do you still have that poke sponsor?
Yep, Hawaiian Poke Bowl. Yep.
Fuck off.
Yeah, awesome.
It's just
We're gonna go there tomorrow. Yeah, we already got plans to hit our spot up.
This guy.
gross.
Well, yeah, you do it. I can't after the Pokeball thing.
Well, Kev, you have to do it because you lost.
Mason Fowler, the world's most interesting grappler, beat Craig Jones, blah, 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 has a Pokeball sponsor. Mason, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is... Please note, the new number is